people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
To the mother relay, we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of tomorrow's mega match, unified champion Gabriela Alaniz, I am more than ready to go in search of eternal glory. Gabriela Alaniz never gave up on this moment. She envisioned, long before a pair of fights with Marlen Esparza, it remained her ultimate goal even after she was denied a decision that most think should have gone her way in their first fight last July. The highly questionable majority decision defeat ended Alaniz's WBO flyweight title reign. Their April 27th rematch saw the 28-year-old Argentinian gain her sweet revenge. Alaniz, 15-1 with 16 knockouts, prevailed on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards to take down Esparza to claim the ring flyweight crown and the WBC, WBA, and WBO titles. Up next is the last chip. Alaniz is set to face unbeaten IBF champion Gabriela Fundora, 14-0 with 6 KOs. Their November 2nd summit meeting at Virgin Hotels Vegas will crown the first ever undisputed flyweight champion. It's what I thought. This isn't just a undisputed title fight in the flyweight division. This is the undisputed title fight, the first. The inaugural undisputed flyweight champion will be crowned this Saturday in the women's flyweight division, the first of their kind. I am more than ready to go in search of eternal glory, Alaniz told The Ring. This is a great opportunity to fulfill the biggest dream and sweep all of the titles. Alaniz versus Fundora will air live on DAZN as the chief support to the Floyd Schofield versus Renee Tellez-Duran lightweight bout. Alaniz enters her 5th career title fight and her 3rd straight in the United States. Her first fight with Esparza didn't at all deter Alaniz or her team from returning to America. In fact, quote-unquote, La Chucky was so impressed the Golden Boy promotion staff that plans were already in place to bring her back irrespective of a championship rematch. Oh, so they wanted to use her. She's got a fan-friendly style. Pressure fighters often do. They make for a fun fight, a fun night. Gabriela's a pressure fighter. On that premise, they wanted to bring her back. Of course, reclaiming her crown certainly helped. Alaniz and her team had to fight outside the ring just to make that happen. Georgina Rivero, Alaniz's longtime promoter, filed a protest with the WBO, who agreed that an immediate rematch was warranted versus Esparza. Their request was met, and Gabriela exacted her revenge. We haven't seen Marlen Esparza since. I don't know if she's still with Golden Boy or not, but I thought you said Golden Boy Promotions wanted to bring her back. Yeah, they probably did, but that doesn't mean Marlen Esparza wanted to give her a rematch, wanted to give her another crack at the apple. That was a separate matter. They had to go through the WBO for that, petition the WBO to order a rematch so they could put Marlen on the spot, and they did, and it all worked out. It paid off. It was enough to stall plans for an Esparza versus Fundora undisputed championship clash earlier this year. The development hardly forced Fundora to break her stride. She won the IBF title in a 5th-round knockout over Arely Musinho last October and has already lodged 2 successful title defenses. Alaniz did her part to derail Esparza. It cleared a path to crown another undisputed champion on the women's side of boxing. We are very proud to be part of this historic fight for women's boxing, Rivero told The Ring. I am very confident about the champion who will represent Argentina. La Chucky is here to stay, and her legacy has just begun. So listen, I like Gabriela Alaniz, and I wish her all the best. I mean, may the best woman win. But I'm going with Gabriela Fundora to win the fight. I'm going with Gabby. I feel that between Gabby's height, her length, her movement, and her persistent jab, her piston jab, it's going to be too hard for Gabriela Alaniz to get close to her, to get off punches the way she normally does with other girls, more moderately sized flyweights with Gabriela Fundora, it's an uphill battle. It's a tall ask. Pun intended. I think the silver lining for Gabriela Alaniz, should she falter on Saturday, is that in all likelihood, Gabby Fundora would move up afterwards. If she becomes this division's inaugural, undisputed champion, there won't be much reason for her to stick around, and that could herald the start of a super flyweight campaign. Currently, there are 4 champions at super flyweight that she can, and in all likelihood, will fight. And while she's doing that, Gabriela Alaniz can resume the process of picking up the pieces, picking up all the belts that she leaves behind at flyweight. So if Golden Boy's interest in bringing back Gabriela Alaniz and using her on their shows is genuine, they can help her on a second undisputed run. They can do that. Yeah, some of those fights can be in Argentina, but some of them can be here stateside. My viewer is a welcome addition to any Golden Boy promotion show because you know she's gonna throw, you know she's gonna fight. And her fights are not that expensive to put on in a very general sense. Getting a couple of flyweights in the ring, male or female, it don't cost that much. And thus, if my prediction sticks for this weekend's fight, it's not the end of the road. It doesn't have to be. Not for Gabriela Alaniz. In men's lightweight news, boxing insider Rick Glaser went on the attack saying, on October 24, I said the December 14th Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach fight was in serious trouble and could get canceled. On a second tweet a day later, I said it was canceled. Gervonta Davis said I was wrong, and YouTubers like Fannon Boxing jumped on it and started with their latest hate campaign on me. Well, since it's officially off now and may not get rescheduled, there's not been even one apology from any of the naysayers, such as Fannon. That Fannon is a jerk-off, and anyone that listens to that fool's show should definitely question their own intelligence. He won't get an apology. And the naysayers, the ones that tried to put him on blast, they won't even acknowledge that they were wrong. We've seen this already. I've experienced it myself. For how many years did I say here on this channel that unless the numbers pick up on Showtime, PBC's future on the platform was in jeopardy? Showtime's role in the sport of boxing was in jeopardy, that unless something changes, they might go the same way that HBO went. I was criticized by a lot of people in the comment section, criticized on a regular basis for saying this, called a hater, you're just a hater, a PBC hater, I'm biased, all that stuff, so that when what I said would happen actually happened, all those people got out of Dodge. All those people disappeared. They weren't piping up with no apologies. They don't want to acknowledge that they were the ones that were wrong. I was right. It's going to be the same thing for Rick. Do you think that head case, Fannon, is going to acknowledge that he was wrong? Do you think that because Gervonta Davis says something, that makes it the final word on the matter? That makes it true? I remember when there were rumors about an Adam Azim versus Ohara Davies fight. Ohara Davies denied it. He outright denied that they were working on an Adam Azim fight just for the fight to get made, just for the rumors to be true. Gervonta Davis denying that his fight with Lamont Roach was in jeopardy and wouldn't happen, it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. One and the same. Fannon Boxing, one of the older content creators in the YouTube boxing community, one of the older Haymanites and Gervonta Davis apologists, one of the older spin doctors. This is not a news network. That is not a boxing news channel. Which is not to say that Fannon doesn't get good metrics, doesn't do good numbers with his uploads, with his videos. He actually does, better than this channel. But do you notice that almost every video is about the same thing? 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, 4 days of Gervonta Davis videos, Gervonta Davis news. That's his bread and butter right now. A few years ago, it was about Deontay Wilder and some other PBC fighters back when PBC had more fight dates. More going on. These days, it's a lot more specific, seemingly specific to Gervonta Davis videos. That is his bread and butter right now. So naturally, he's not going to let anybody talk him down, even when what they're saying is true. He's not going to let anybody talk him down. He'll do his best to spin it. But this is a situation that really can't be spun, that Gervonta was supposed to be fighting in December. Rick said the fight was going to get canceled, and it got canceled. At which point, all a guy like Fannon and his subscribers can resort to is cognitive dissonance and denial. Pretend like nothing's going on so you don't have to acknowledge you were wrong and you don't know what you're talking about. Just pretend like nothing's happening. Because for Gervonta, nothing is. You can see from the subject matter that Fannon often broaches as a content creator that he's not concerned with world boxing, that there's any variety of news out there in reference to other fights with other fighters that are with other outfits all around the world. He's more focused on one fighter.
Just one.
Like he used to be with Deontay Wilder, he's doing that now with Gervonta. That's all it is. Because his audience, the audience that he caters to, they are not boxing fans. They don't keep up with world boxing. If they did, then he might have to make videos about that. But these people don't. So while his metrics are generous,
They are good.
these are not actual customers, consumers of the sport he's making videos for and catering to. No, these are degenerates. These are just bums.
Of course they'll watch your free videos on YouTube, and that'll get your metrics up.
But these individuals do not actually represent the consumer base here in America that consumes boxing, spends money on boxing. It's deceptive, I know, that online metrics don't necessarily reflect
Not always.
who the paying customer supports, what the paying customers like. Any number of content creators whose bread and butter the last few years was propping up PBC fighters and putting them on a pedestal, and they were able to garner good metrics in doing so, but look at the state of the PBC in the real world.
Look at where they are now.
Rick Glaser continued, "Let's talk about one of my favorite subjects, the PBC. In 2016, at the height of their clout, PBC did about 43 boxing events. In 2023, PBC only did about 18. Now in 2024, the PBC has done just 5 shows all year, and nothing else is scheduled. Of those 5, 4 were on Amazon Prime. The 5th event was Amazon Prime subscription service. A Tim Tszyu fight that was entirely financed by Tzew's promoter, No Limit. So, PBC simply piggybacked off of No Limit for that one. The fate of PBC does not look good. The demise of PBC is upon us. Al Heyman, where are you as your ship is going down? Anything that PBC executives could be doing now would be like rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. The difference between the Titanic and the PBC is the Titanic went down with the lights on."
An ominous forecast from boxing insider Rick Glaser that continues to get more and more ominous.
Heralding disaster. If his forecast rings true, what happens to the remaining fighters that are there? Because there are still some left.
Gervonta's still over there, but I'll be honest. I would sooner expect FannonDavis to retire than fight under another promotional banner. A Matchroom, a Top Rank, a Golden Boy. I think he'd sooner call it a career than fight under another banner.
To maintain this image, this illusion that he's one of the best fighters in the sport by retiring undefeated.
He'd be leaving a lot of money on the table, but that wouldn't be the first time that happened. That wouldn't be the first time he did that.
The other fighters like, say, David Benavidez or David Morrell, Brandon Figueroa,
Some of which are affected by the cancellation of Gervonta Davis's December 14 fight. Well, they could always go to Golden Boy. I mean, I've always thought that David Benavidez...
I think his career would be better left in the hands of Oscar De La Hoya than Al Heyman. That's what I think. I think that David Benavidez and Oscar De La Hoya could get along famously. And who hates Canelo Alvarez more than the both of them?
That could be a good pairing.
That if the PBC were to go under in the coming year, where would David Benavidez go? Where should he go? He should go to Oscar.
Not just him. Brandon Figueroa, too.
What about Brandon's sister?
She should go to me.
I don't think Mario Barrios is going to like that.
Real Talk's gonna be mad.
When you think about it, David Benavidez, even David Morrell, Brandon Figueroa,
Mario Barrios, Jesus Ramos.
they'd be better off with Oscar. They'd be better off at Golden Boy than they are now at the PBC. And I think for those particular fighters of Mexican descent, Oscar can do more for them than Al Heyman ever could. Al Heyman's been trying to tap into that market for years, but he can't do it. How Oscar can do it.
He doesn't have the inside track, like Oscar has the inside track. Oscar's got his flaws. He's got his drawbacks.
Not saying that he doesn't, but in a situation where the PBC might go under because of a scarcity of money, fight dates, and other resources, the best place for those fighters to go would be Golden Boy.
Sebastian Fundora, too. His sister's already over there.
A guy like Stanionis, a Lithuanian, an international fighter, he'd be better off going to Matchroom.
Or Top Rank.
As those two promotional outfits have more of an international stable.
Right?
If you take a head count, the PBC doesn't actually have all that much left. But you figure that if next year they might go under, that's how it could break down, or at least that's what would be best for those fighters.
Golden Boy can give those fighters more stability than what they have now at the PBC.
Things will have really come full circle if they broke down that way, if you know the history of the PBC and how they got started.
Wow.
And finally, you may have heard yesterday that Gustavo Olivieri has been elected as the new WBO president, as longtime president Paco Vercel has decided to step down after 28 years. WBA President Gilberto Mendoza, WBC President Mauricio Suleiman, and IBF President Daryl Peebles were all in attendance at the WBO's latest convention as this was made official. Now, for those familiar with the WBO, they will know that Gustavo was already working with them. He was already working for them as their attorney, and thus he will have keen insight into their proceedings and how things are normally done for the sanctioning body. It's been a passing of the torch from Paco over to Gustavo.
Multi-weight champions Terrence Crawford and the very delicious Michaela Mayer were in attendance for the convention.
Delicious. We're doing that now?
I do pride myself on my honesty and being honest. Since having moved up in weight and put on a few pounds, Michaela Mayer is looking very nice.
Very nice indeed. Several others, Nonito Donaire and his wife Rachel, were in attendance for the convention. Many others.
Gustavo has a good idea of how things are done, how things are run at the WBO.
And so in previous years, the WBO became subject to some criticism for what people perceived as a close relationship with Bob Arum and in some instances Frank Warren, though no more partial than what you see from the WBA and the PBC.
Hell, I'd say that the WBA's partiality to the PBC and PBC fighters is a hell of a lot more unethical.
Those sentiments expressed, but over the years, the WBO proved themselves to be straight shooters, no-nonsense players, unlike the WBA, unlike the WBC, that if I have to compare how these sanctioning bodies are run and how they do things, I do like how the WBO does things more than the WBC, more than the WBA.
More.
And so we can only hope that Gustavo Olivieri will keep that up. Give the sport some structure, some kind of integrity.
So often in the sport of boxing, these sanctioning bodies, like the WBC in particular, they hurt the sport's credibility with how they operate.
Its image, its integrity. These are intended to be the gatekeepers of the sport. The sanctioning bodies and their presidents and what mandates and procedures, proceedings come down.
These are the powers that be.
So much of what Mauricio Suleiman and Gilberto Mendoza have done year after year has hurt the image of the sport. Hopefully Gustavo and the WBO will continue to be a breath of fresh air in boxing, giving it structure.
That's what it needs.
And that is the function of a sanctioning body in the sport of boxing. They are intended to give it its pecking order and ensure that what fighters are paying them sanctioning fees to climb up those ranks get their shot, get their title shot.
Their opportunity.
Congratulations to Gustavo for being elevated to this position.